Egan, she put a lot of pressure on Eala, and that's the biggest challenge of the tour.
World number one is speaking publicly about Alexa, and what she has to say is impossible to
Iga will always be a dangerous player.
to. And on a court just a few hundred meters away, Eala is in tears.
Alexandra Eala from the Philippines, and has a huge win for her.
Racket rests loosely by her side after she has just defeated top 10 player Aryna Sabalenka in straight sets. Court 1 at Steffi Graf Stadium falls into the background as she stands almost motionless, the racket hanging from her left hand as if she has forgotten she's still holding it. Her right hand covers her mouth, her eyes glistening with emotion. Across the net, Svitolina, a 20-time WTA singles champion, former world number 3, and a player Eala grew up watching on television in Manila, walks forward to congratulate her. The scoreboard reads 6-3, 6-4. The stadium clock shows 1 hour and 23 minutes. But behind those numbers, another statistic is quietly taking shape. This is Eala's 6th career victory over a top 10 opponent, and her second in less than 48 hours. She lowers her hand from her face and admits on live television that she is still in shock. At just 21 years old, ranked outside the seeds and competing on a wild card in a WTA 500 event the week before Wimbledon, she has done something few expected. And waiting ahead is the biggest challenge of all. World number 1 Aryna Sabalenka.
She's come back after really tough start, so I'd like to play another final against her.
Already placed her verdict on Alex Eala into the public record. It was not a reaction to Berlin, but a belief she had held for weeks. That verdict appears in the full-length ABS-CBN interview born for Center Court, where the reigning number 1 speaks about the young Filipina not with polite encouragement, but with genuine anticipation. That interview becomes the frame for today's story, because what unfolded in Berlin between June 18th and June 20th, 2026, was the moment Sabalenka's private prediction became the tour's public reality. Eala arrived in Berlin ranked outside the top 30, unseeded, carrying just 1 career top, 10 victory, and none on grass. She left with a career-high ranking, a Wimbledon seeding, and 2 top, 10 victories in less than 48 hours. The rankings changed, but so did the conversation. For much of the season, the prevailing view across the WTA was measured and cautious. Alex Eala was seen as an exceptionally talented young player still making the difficult transition from junior success to the senior tour. She had produced a breakthrough run in Miami in 2025, defeating 4 top 30 opponents, including IGA Swiatek in the semifinals. But that week came with an asterisk in the minds of many. It was treated as an outlier, a perfect combination of hard courts, fast conditions, and the energy of a Filipino diaspora that packed the stands. A gifted player who had caught lightning once. Before Berlin, she had defeated only 1 top 10 player outside that Miami run and had never beaten a top 10 opponent on grass. Her career record against Czech players stood at just 1 win and 13 losses, an unremarkable statistic that would become important later. On paper, she was a player the elite noticed, but not one they were preparing for. Then Berlin happened. Not 1 upset, but 2. Not on her best surface, but on grass. Not against fading stars, but against the tournament's number 2 seed one day and number 6 seed the next. Suddenly, the question was no longer whether Miami had been real. The question was whether Miami had been the ceiling or merely the floor. Start with the score, because the score is the smallest truth in this story. On June 19th, 2026, in the Berlin quarterfinal, Eala defeated Aryna Sabalenka 6-3, 6-4, a result that reached the Philippines in the early hours of June 20th and marked the beginning of something far bigger than a single victory. The match lasted just 1 hour and 23 minutes. Straight sets. Their first meeting. Svitolina arrived with a 35-9 record on the season, ranked world number 8, seeded 6th in Berlin, a former world number 3, and the 2018 WTA Finals champion. This was no favorable draw or quarterfinal opened up by withdrawals. It was a top 10 player in peak form on a surface where experience has always mattered. And Eala closed her out from 5-4 in the second set, in what Tracy Austin would later describe as the match's most pressure-filled game. The scoreline looks comfortable, but only because 24 hours earlier she had already accomplished something even more difficult. In the round of 16, Eala stunned second seed Aryna Sabalenka, the 2022 Wimbledon champion, 7-5, 6-4. Sabalenka is one of the cleanest ball strikers in women's tennis, with a serve that becomes one of the most dangerous weapons on grass. Eala defeated her in straight sets on the surface, where Sabalenka is at her best. One result can be dismissed as a moment. Two victories like that in less than 48 hours become something else entirely. Berlin marked Eala's sixth career win over a top 10 opponent, but more importantly, it was only the second time she had earned back-to-back top 10 victories. The first came in Miami in 2025. That is the last time Miami will be mentioned, because the point is no longer to revisit that run. The point is that 15 months later, she did it again on a completely different surface, against completely different opponents, in a completely different tournament. One occurrence can be called an outlier. Two, across two surfaces and against four different top 10 players, begin to reveal a pattern. And once that pattern appears, the story shifts from whether she can do it to how she is doing it. The numbers behind these wins are every bit as revealing as the victories themselves. Svitolina fired 4 aces in that quarterfinal, but they were only the beginning of a much bigger statistical picture. Eala finished the match with just 1 ace. Svitolina hit 4. On paper, and especially on grass, Svitolina was the stronger server. That advantage should have mattered. Instead, the match was decided on the return. According to ESPN's match report and Tennis Channel's broadcast analysis, Svitolina committed 23 unforced errors compared to Eala's just 9. Eala won 13 of 22 points on Svitolina's first serve and 21 of 42 on her second serve. Remarkable numbers against a former world number 3 on grass. Meanwhile, her own first serve percentage stood at 69%, high enough to deny Svitolina the rhythm she normally builds through aggressive second ball attacks. In simple terms, Eala did not overpower Svitolina in Berlin. She out-returned her. She outlasted her. She kept each rally alive one shot longer than Svitolina wanted to play. That distinction matters because, for the past 2 years, the narrative around Eala has centered on her power, a left-hander capable of striking through opponents with pace. Berlin suggested something different. It revealed a second layer beneath the obvious one. Her success was built not only on shot-making but on discipline, anticipation, and relentless point construction. That was the quality the sport's most experienced observers noticed immediately, and why the praise began arriving before the sweat had even dried from her shoulders. Tracy Austin, a 2-time U.S. Open champion, former world number 1, and member of the International Tennis Hall of Fame, has spent decades reading matches at the highest level. She is known for measured analysis, not exaggerated praise. Calling the Berlin quarterfinal for Tennis Channel, she focused not on Eala's winners, but on her composure. As reported by Tennis Head's on-site coverage, Austin summed up the decisive closing game with a simple observation. She has been so sturdy mentally. What an impressive last game. Down 0-30, and somehow found a way. Austin continued, saying that Eala served well, did just enough variation with her serve, with her spins, driving the ball to make Svitolina feel uncomfortable. The statistics backed up her assessment. Svitolina finished with 23 unforced errors. Eala made just 9. But the two words that matter most in Austin's analysis are not power, upside, or potential. They are sturdy and variation. Sturdy is a word reserved for players whose games are already built, whose composure has been tested and proven. Variation is a word you use for players who understand how to construct points, change rhythms, and solve problems instead of simply hitting through them. That was Austin's verdict. Higher still, the world number 1 had already reached a remarkably similar conclusion. Aryna Sabalenka's ABS-CBN interview, born for center court, was never a reaction to the Berlin run. It was her standing public assessment of Alexandra Eala, a reigning world number 1, speaking about a player then ranked outside the elite as someone the sport should expect to see competing on its biggest stages. That is the validation at the heart of the story. Sabalenka is not sounding off in frustration or surprise. She is placing her opinion on the record. And now the rankings are beginning to mirror what those voices have been saying. Eala's run to the Berlin semifinals, even though it ended there, lifted her to a career-high ranking around world number 30, up from approximately number 35 the previous week and from around number 49 at the beginning of the season, according to weekly ranking trackers published by GMA Network and Tennis 365. She arrived at Wimbledon 2026 as the tournament's number 29 seed. That was more than another milestone. It was her first Grand Slam as a seeded player, placing her on the side of the draw that unseeded players now hope to avoid rather than the other way around. The balance had shifted. Then, on July 2nd, 2026, she defeated Maya Joint in the second round at Wimbledon to reach the third round of a Grand Slam for the first time in her career. With that victory, Eala became the first Filipina in history to reach the third round of a Grand Slam singles event, a milestone confirmed by Wimbledon's official channels. Just 2 years earlier, the Philippines had never produced a seeded player at a major. Now, it had one competing deep into the draw. Step back for a moment, because this story is bigger than a single player. The WTA has spent the past decades steadily expanding its footprint across the Asia-Pacific region, with its calendar increasingly centered around markets that barely held this level of influence a generation ago. Into that landscape walks Alex Eala as the first Filipina ever seeded at a Grand Slam. That is a national milestone. But beneath it lies an even more important tennis truth. Top 10 victories across multiple surfaces are what separate players who catch fire for a week from players who become lasting threats. Eala now owns top 10 wins on hard courts in Miami and on grass in Berlin, including 2 on grass in the same week. She has not yet produced that breakthrough on clay. That is an honest gap in her resume, not a criticism. What matters is that her range is expanding, because versatility across surfaces is what scouts, coaches, and tournament directors value most. It is often a better predictor of sustained success than a single headline victory. This week, Eala stepped into one of the most exclusive rooms in women's tennis, the Wimbledon seeding list, occupied by players ranked 1 through 32. Aryna Sabalenka is in that room. Elena Rybakina is in that room. Jessica Pegula is in that room. Aryna Sabalenka is in that room. And now at number 29, so is Alex Eala. Not as a wild card standing at the edge of the picture, but as a seeded player whose name belongs on the order of play. But that room is real, and so is its ceiling. The same week that revealed how high Eala could climb also showed where her limits currently are. 24 hours after defeating Svitolina, she faced Linda Noskova in the Berlin semifinals and lost 2-6, 4-6. Noskova, then ranked world number 13, had already proven to be a difficult matchup. Coming into Berlin, Eala's career record against Czech players stood at just 1 win and 12 losses, including a decisive 6-2, 6-0 defeat to Noskova at Indian Wells earlier in 2026. Before the Berlin semifinal, Eala was realistic about the challenge ahead. Speaking about Linda Noskova, she said, "She's a big hitter. She's young, but she has a lot of experience and is very powerful. My last match with her proved to be very difficult for me. So, coming into the semifinals, I hope to prepare, make some improvements, and show what I've got." She prepared. She showed exactly what she had. She still lost in straight sets. That is what a genuine turning point looks like up close. A breakthrough and a boundary revealed in the same week. Both true, neither diminishing the other. 10 days later, she opened Wimbledon with a straight sets victory. And then advanced to the third round for the first time in her career. The floor kept rising even as the ceiling remained where it was. Both belong in the story. So the verdict is not that she has arrived, and not that she is the next anyone. The verdict is simply that the ledger has been rewritten by the sport itself. 6 career victories over top 10 opponents. 2 of them coming back-to-back in less than 48 hours on grass. A career-high ranking around world number 30. The number 29 seed at Wimbledon. The first Filipina ever to reach the third round of a Grand Slam singles event. A Hall of Famer describing her as sturdy. and the reigning world number one publicly identifying her as a player built for center court before any of this had happened. Return now to Court 1 at Steffi Graf Stadion, the racket hanging loosely by her side, the hand covering her mouth, the tears in her eyes. Then place the record beneath the image. What you are seeing is not the shock of an unlikely upset. It is the recognition of a threshold crossed. The little girl in Manila who once watched Aryna Sabalenka on television, the same one who said after the match, "I've been watching her since I was a kid, so to be able to compete with her today is such an honor." And the seeded player whose name appeared on Wimbledon's order of play are the same person, separated only by time. She hit just one ace that day. Svitolina hit 4. It did not matter. She no longer needs to be the biggest hitter in the room to belong there. She already does. Sabalenka, Rybakina, Pegula, Svitolina. Their names now appear alongside hers, not as posters on a bedroom wall, but as opponents whose matches she has won, challenged, and helped define. Wimbledon is still unfolding, and the next chapter of that ledger is being written in real time. If you want to follow where the story goes next, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the room Alex Eala has entered is the one the entire tennis world is watching.